All right, folks, I'm Logan Alec, and this is my stimulus update for Friday, August 7th. Mnuchin, Meadows, Pelosi, and Schumer met for the 10th day yesterday to try to strike a deal, and it doesn't look like much progress was made, and hopes have now all but faded that a deal will be struck this week. Before I get into the status of the negotiations, if you could like this video below, give it a big thumbs up down there, I would really appreciate it, and it would really help with the YouTube algorithm, because there's still a lot of clickbait out there saying stuff like second stimulus check confirmed and all this nonsense, when, like I've said before, a second stimulus check isn't confirmed until a bill passes both houses of Congress and is signed into law by the president. I see a lot of videos saying, just in, good news, great news. I don't know what this good news is, folks. To be completely honest, I don't know if these folks are listening to the same four stimulus negotiators I'm listening to, but bottom line is that negotiations are not going well right now for stimulus, and a second stimulus check at this point is not confirmed. Just because both Democrats and Republicans agree that there should be a second stimulus check, which they do, doesn't mean it's confirmed. They have to agree on the other things as well, the unemployment, the state and local funding, the schools, the food stamps, all those things, because we know that at least at this point, a standalone bill for stimulus checks is off the table. So yesterday, the four stimulus negotiators, Mnuchin, Meadows, Pelosi, and Schumer, held a 3-hour negotiation meeting, and I'll show you what they said in their own words. Here's Mnuchin and Meadows.
So you're no closer than you were 12 hours ago?
I would say we're closer on a lot of issues. We're still very far apart on some very significant issues. That if the basis is getting an overall deal done, there would have to be significant compromises on some big issues tomorrow.
Yeah, let me characterize it this way. I would think that the compromises that Secretary Mnuchin and I put forth on behalf of the president are significantly greater than the compromises that we saw from the other side of the negotiating table.
So I think Mnuchin is framing yesterday's discussion perhaps more positively than is the reality. He says they're closer on a lot of issues, but still very far apart on some significant issues. I'd imagine those big issues they're far apart on are things like unemployment, state and local funding. It also sounds like they're far apart on food stamps as well as school funding, right? A Republican idea being to limit school funding to schools that reopen, not to all schools. Well, Democrats seem to want funding for all schools, regardless of whether they open up in-person learning in the fall. And Meadows is, of course, characterizing the Democrats as not willing to compromise in the way that Republicans have been willing to compromise. Speaking of the Democrats, here's Pelosi and Schumer after yesterday evening's negotiations.
When they said a skinny proposal, it was anorexic, and it was not to meet the needs of the American people. What is a negotiation about? It's not about who gets more what in the halls of Congress. It's about what it translates into the lives of the American people. And that's why I kept asking them, why won't you do this? Why won't you do this? Why won't you do this? But nonetheless, we've had some further exchange of paper to be clarified to see if we can find some further common ground. But we're very far apart. It's most unfortunate. I want to yield to the distinguished leader in the Senate, as I've said before, a former member of the House of Representatives. We welcome him back to our side of the Capitol.
Well, thank you. And first, we're very disappointed in the meeting, but we urge our Republican colleagues to come back and continue to negotiate. A few times it looked like they weren't going to do that, and we urge them to do it. And why? Because negotiation and a broad, comprehensive agreement is the best way to go. But their stance was disappointing. We asked them, would you meet us in the middle? And they said, no, it has to be mostly in our direction. They were unwilling to meet in the middle. They said it mostly has to be their way, and they admitted that.
So Pelosi calls Republicans' proposal not just skinny, but anorexic, and Schumer characterizes the Republicans as being unwilling to negotiate here. Honestly, folks, they're just so far apart to begin with. $1 trillion from the Republican proposal, $3 trillion in the Democrat HEROES Act. I mean, I don't know. Meeting in the middle, $2 trillion, that does sound reasonable to me. I mean, sure, that's roughly the total amount of corporate and individual income taxes the federal government collects every year, and it's obviously a very large number, but this is the worst economic crisis our country has faced since the Great Depression. It's cliche, I know, but desperate times do call for desperate measures. So here's how I suspect this is going to work. Hopefully the negotiators will meet again today. I haven't heard of a scheduled meeting today, which is a bit concerning, frankly, but hopefully they'll give it a go again today. If that doesn't happen, or if there are negotiations today and Mnuchin and Meadows maintain their glum tone and tell Trump today over the phone, hey, this ain't working, boss, I think we might see some of those executive orders that Trump's been talking about. And like I said earlier this week, the president might be able to suspend collection of the payroll tax, but not to set the payroll tax to a 0% tax rate. That money would still be owed at some point in the future, which is why I refer to this executive order strategy not as the payroll tax cut, which would have to be accomplished through the legislative process. The Constitution says that Congress has the power to lay and collect taxes, not the president. Okay, so I've been referring to this Trump plan for an executive order on the payroll tax as a payroll tax deferral. Okay, because the tax will still be owed. Maybe it won't be collected right now, but it will still be owed at some point in the future. It's the same thing for other things as well. Sure, Trump could potentially order an eviction moratorium via an executive order, but he can't appropriate federal funds to make the landlords whole. That rent would still be owed whenever that moratorium ends. So that's the problem with the whole executive order strategy. It is very much like a Band-Aid. Now, real quick, the July jobs report came out today. 1.8 million jobs were added in July, with the jobless rate falling to 10.2%. That's down from 11.1% in June, 13.3% in May. That said, fewer than half the jobs lost in April have been recovered in the 3 months following. That's May, June, and July. Now, a lot of this positive trend has, in my view, been bolstered by stimulus for small businesses, namely the PPP Paycheck Protection Program. And I think if we want this trend to continue, we need another relief bill. Unfortunately, given that this jobs report would probably be characterized as positive, I think we'll see a lot of GOP senators saying, oh, see, proof. We don't need more stimulus. Look at the July jobs report. All right, folks, that is my update for today. I'm really trying to cut through all the noise for you right now and just tell you how the stimulus negotiations are going, because that's kind of all that matters right now in terms of getting a second stimulus check, in terms of getting those federally funded unemployment benefits extended. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't clicked the like button below yet, please go ahead and do that. Give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.